What's up, everybody? It's HBT with Straight Up Wrestling Show. Here live, guys. Talk a little bit about wrestling. Old school wrestling was what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about, hey, my favorite place to eat here in the upstate of South Carolina, in my hometown, Greenville, South Carolina. You can say in the Berea section of Greenville, South Carolina is my favorite place to eat, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. Go ahead and talk about, The Clock. It's called The Clock on Cedar Lane Road in Berea, South Carolina. That's part of Greenville, South Carolina. So I will talk about that along with my favorite territories, guys, of wrestling that I really loved growing up. Pretty much the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship Wrestling area and the Georgia Championship Wrestling area. Those two right there pretty much was my favorites growing up. So I'm definitely going to talk about both of those guys. And like I said, every now and then I will throw in pretty much was my favorites growing up. Hey, just ended up turning on my tablet and had it up. So, but yeah, I definitely will be talking about that, man. But yes, straight up, let me just go ahead and talk about wrestling a little bit. And, hey, and the way wrestling is making me feel today. Tonight, Christopher Burton and myself will be talking about, we will go into Monday Night Raw, guys. I did not get to see Friday Night SmackDown, but we will be doing Monday Night Raw tonight, pretty much. So we'll be live at 8 p.m. So, hey, come check us out. Then this weekend, guys, we have a show. We have a show in Greenwood, South Carolina, Edgewood Community Center, February 22nd. The show will start at 1 p.m., guys. We will be doing TV taping, so that might go on for about 4 hours. We're going to have like a four show set, and it's going to be TV taping, and this is free to the public, guys. Edgewood Community Center in Greenwood, South Carolina. And guys, come on out and check that out. We're going to have a lot of great action. You never know what wrestlers you're going to see. Could be some future stars mixed into that, because we do have some very young talent on this card, man. We got some 18-year-olds out here who's going to be vying for some championships. So definitely come on out and check that out. If you're in the upstate of South Carolina, it's going to be going down. But guys, let me talk about, look, I grew up with the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. The Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, Mid-Atlantic Championship area, Mid-Atlantic Territories, and the Mid-Atlantic Territories was in South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. It was basically the Carolinas and Virginia was their main territorial base. It did expand out to, Kentucky, Tennessee, all those coast areas, and it did expand out. They had TV, they even had TV go all the way up to Philadelphia, out some in New York and Maryland, so out in Baltimore and then in Chicago. But hey, the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling areas, guys, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, and right behind my head, guys, Georgia Championship Wrestling areas, guys. Those were my favorite two territories growing up. I did like Florida Championship Wrestling. I like Tully Blanchard's dad, old Southwest Texas area championship wrestling. I did like that. And I did like a couple other ones too, guys. But my favorite of all time, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. And right now, guys, I am having a lot of, I'm having a lot of flashbacks and thinking about the time that I was growing up on these territories and really loving the wrestling that the Mid-Atlantic Championship area provided and the Georgia Championship area provided. Guys, they provided me a lot of excitement, a lot of great times growing up. I used to love those territories, so I'm definitely going to go ahead and talk about that. But hey, as you come in to this podcast, guys, as you come in, you check me out. Definitely, if you like this, go ahead and hit that like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell to let people know, hey, the Straight Up Wrestling Show is live and in effect, guys, so it can go out to other people. Do that if you are over here on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, hit that like, share, join. If you are on Twitch, you do the same thing that you do on here on YouTube, and that's like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, ding, 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 so you know we're on like times like these, guys. And those are the three platforms we're on right now. And anytime that you see us on X, guys, hit that like, share, tweet, and retweet, and follow the Straight Up Wrestling Show, guys. So definitely, man, hey, like I said, look, sitting here talking about one of my favorite things. And, I'm going to talk about these territories, guys. Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, started watching that when I was very young, guys, early 70s. I'm not going to say the exact year. I'm pretty sure it was, 72, 73, anywhere from 71 to 73. When I remember watching wrestling when I turned 4 years old. My big brother used to watch it, and I'm like, what is that? And it used to just drive me crazy. But I remember the Scott brothers, man, Sandy Scott, George Scott, the great George Scott, who went on to become the great booker here in the Carolinas for the NWA for Jim Crockett. This guy all the way up into Starrcade. And then right after that, he became a great booker up there with the WWE and pretty much, the first WrestleMania and on. He did so many great things up there for Vince McMahon too. It's kind of crazy the way that Jim Crockett Promotions intermingled with the WWE, how all the success from the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Championship area went up there to New York too. So many great wrestlers who came through here end up becoming big WWE stars, guys. But hey, that's one thing about what I used to love about the territories back then is these wrestlers was huge in these territories. A lot of them was so big in the territories that their popularity expanded so many different other areas. And when they ended up going to these other territories, they was already big, huge stars when they got to these territories. That's one thing that I do miss. It's kind of like these wrestlers that's being let go. They're being released from the WWE, or if they're being released from TNA, they a lot of times they have nowhere else to go. If they're being released from WWE, AEW, or TNA, they have nowhere else to go. Or, they trying their best to get back up to one of those companies, or they go over to Japan. A lot of wrestlers back in the day who used to leave the territories, they would go over to Japan and have a tour over in Japan because they made a lot of money over in Japan. So can't blame none of them for going over to Japan to make that cash, guys. But a lot of guys back in the day, you could be a big star here in the Carolinas, man, in the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Championship Wrestling area, and then hey, your popularity started to wane, or you start losing momentum. You're not winning here anymore, so they send you somewhere else. And a lot of times the promoters used to do that. They will be in good. You have Jim Crockett, who's in good with Mike Graham down in Florida. So hey, once everything dies down here, or you're not making it here anymore, he will send you down to Mike Graham in Florida. Mike Graham might send you back to Jack and Jerry Briscoe or Ole Anderson up in Georgia. I mean, down in Georgia, they would send you there. I guess Florida, you got to say up because they going back up to Georgia because Florida is even deeper down south. And if you're not making it there, they will send you on down to Louisiana or somewhere like that to be, with Bill Watts in Bill Watts territory. And maybe you can get over there. You had over in, the Owens, Paul, I think it was Dunn Owens over in Portland, man. They would send you to Portland to see if you can get over in there. And sometimes up to Vince McMahon. I'm talking about Vince McMahon Sr. up in New York. He will call down and grab some of these guys. But you could get over in so many different places back then, if you was in the territories and you was a big name wrestler, guys. So it was a great thing. Or if you was a great talent, a lot of times you could go to a lot of these different territories. And like I said, anybody who's anybody, man, as far as wrestling, back in the day, they came through the Mid-Atlantic Championship area, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area. That's the Carolinas. The Carolinas was the big dog when it comes down to the territories, even though the New York wrestling territory, the WWE, the World Wrestling, the WWF, and before that, the WWWF, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, that was the number one territory because it was the biggest. It was huge because it had all of New York, and it had, it did have those little small areas, small states. They had New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut, all those territories up there. That was the New England-based territories. It had all of that, but they were bigger in scope than the Carolinas. I'm not sure if they made as much money as Carolinas, but they was bigger in scope. They did, and like I said, they had Bruno Sammartino. They had Pedro Morales, Ivan Putski, and all those guys was just huge. But here in the Carolinas, man, like I said, anybody came through the Carolinas, man. Hey, one of my first wrestlers that I really took note of, Brute Bernard. This guy was just an incredible wrestler. Had a mean streak, a mile long. He used to walk around a ring, roof. He used to be doing his thing. And this is a wrestler who George the Animal Steele, which I saw later on up in the WWF back in the day. I saw George the Animal Steele. He reminded me of Brute Bernard. They both very similar characters. If you look up Brute Bernard, you would think it's George the Animal Steele. But that was just flat out crazy. And what's up, AJ Scales? My man is in the house. AJ, what's up? Harry, your background says fried chicken restaurant. Yes, it does, buddy. Yes, it does. And then you see that Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling there, Georgia Championship Wrestling. AJ, yes, that's, like I said, I'm talking about wrestling. I'm here to talk about wrestling and my favorite restaurant, guys. But this is a burger restaurant. It's a burger chain called The Clock. Here in the upstate of South Carolina is basically a Greek restaurant, guys. It's a Greek fast food type restaurant. Great food, man. And I mean, they have it in certain areas of the country, but as far as you getting that taste, you got to come to the upstate of South Carolina, man, when it boils down to it. Greenville, South Carolina, little parts of Spartanburg and Anderson, but mainly their restaurants, Clock, Pete's, Carolina Fine Foods, those kind of places are in Greenville, South Carolina. But the guy who owns this, my man V, who owns this restaurant, he has this restaurant here in Greenville, South Carolina. Berea, South Carolina. It's a suburb of Greenville, South Carolina. He has this restaurant in Easley, right up the road in Easley. He has he has another restaurant up there. Let me see. What is it? What in the world is that? Let's see. Grill. Whoa, man. Wow, I don't want to say that wrong. But yeah, he definitely has that one. Haven't been to that one in just a little while, so I kind of forgot about it. But it's called Grill something. But I have to get back to that, and I will be putting that up because I'm gonna be advertising both of the restaurants, guys. And this right here, this episode is sponsored by the Clock on Cedar Lane, the Clock of Berea, South Carolina. But guys, let me get back to talking about that. Like I said, look, one of the first guys that those wrestlers that I noticed, like I said, George and Sandy Scott, and Brute Bernard. Let's see, got a couple other ones, but I'm gonna skip this one name because I cannot think of it. Nelson Royal was one of the first ones I remember. Nelson Royal, who was the junior heavyweight champion at that time. The NWA junior heavyweight champion was in that territory at that time. Great wrestler, guys. Used to do a lot of great things. One of the smaller wrestlers, and today he wouldn't be so small, guys. He would be bigger, but he was junior heavyweight champion, which we would call cruiserweights today. This guy was an incredible athlete in the ring, man, could do so many different moves, so many different holds that he would apply to people. Then later on, guys, somebody that really caught my eye, first person that really caught my attention and made me want to watch this profession. This guy was in the Carolinas, and man, he brought all eyes to the TV set, and he put butts in the seats like crazy at the arenas. And this is Chief Wahoo McDaniel, sold out wherever they went. Chief Wahoo McDaniel, and he had a feud with a guy named Johnny Valentine, guys. You might as well call him the Hammer. Johnny Valentine. His son was called Greg the Hammer Valentine, but Johnny Valentine was the real Hammer, guys. This guy was wow, man. Him and Chief Wahoo McDaniel, they would wage war through the Carolinas, man, in Virginia, or anywhere else they went, that Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling went. Those guys would wage some serious wars, and I mean, they really put it down. You talking about somebody, Johnny Valentine, guys, remind me of when I see Gunther wrestle, I think of Johnny Valentine. Johnny Valentine was just flat out crazy. He was a thoroughbred in that ring, and him and Chief Wahoo McDaniel used to put it down. And Chief Wahoo McDaniel was no joke, and a lot of people out here knows that name. But Chief Wahoo McDaniel, probably the best chop of all times in as far as in professional wrestling. This guy will bury you with those chops. And a great football player too. So yeah, Chief Wahoo McDaniel, who also taught those chops to Ric Flair, those massive chops, those slaps to Ric Flair. And the closest person I can say today who gets to those, get to the closest as far as the impact of those chops is Gunther, guys. But Gunther reminds me of Johnny Valentine. Gunther is something else, guys. He really is. He really is something else. But once again, man, big ups to my sponsor. Big ups to my sponsor up there, over there in Berea, South Carolina. That's exactly where I live. He's in Berea, South Carolina. That's a suburb of Greenville, South Carolina. Here in the upstate of South Carolina, my man V and the Clock on Cedar Lane. Yes, they have some great burgers, guys. Chili cheeseburgers. Great chili cheeseburgers. They cheeseburger a place. They also serving Philly cheesesteaks now. Guys got great chicken fingers over there. Man, they serve fried chicken. They do that. The fried chicken is outstanding, guys. I definitely like it better than KFC or Kentucky Fried Chicken. I even like it better than Bojangles, especially their dark meat. I usually like white meat chicken. I like the breasts and the wings, but I love over here. I do love their thighs, and I love their thighs, and I love their thighs and the drumsticks. I don't usually eat that. My son loves the dark meat, and my oldest daughter loved the dark meat, and that's what they would get. But yeah, like I said, I like I definitely like usually like the white meat, but I usually get dark meat. An 8-piece dark meat over here is the best, and their size are outstanding, guys. Their green beans, definitely, they give you a meal like a Southern meal, the green beans, the macaroni and cheese, and, they have other sides too besides that. But those two right there I'm going to mention, and the mashed potatoes and gravy. But this place right here is a great place to eat, guys, 100%. All right, my girl Alma Clark says, what's up, Harry? How you doing this afternoon? I'm doing pretty good, resting up some before I cook dinner and making some more hot tea with lemon and honey. Doing so much better. Watch Global GCW B90. Okay, was it Global Champion? Yeah, you watch Global Championship Wrestling. Yeah, I remember Global Championship Wrestling. Most definitely out there in Texas. Was a great territory, and a lot of great wrestlers came out of there. And some world champions came out of Global Championship Wrestling too, no doubt. But yes, all right. But yeah, so going back, like I said, Chief Wahoo McDaniel, my man Johnny Weaver. Hold on for a second, guys. Hold on for a second. Let me answer this phone. Hello, Miss Taylor.
Hey, have you sent an order?
I sure did.
You did?
Yes. Ultimate.
Fuck.
No,
cancel it. I don't got time to wait in that line. Cancel it.
You want me to cancel it?
Yeah, you can cancel it.
Angela, that thing been in for a long time. I'm sure they done made it. They should have.
I mean, not because I'm not sitting up here.
What you want me to do then?
Never mind.
What you want me to do? I'm online. Hold on for a second, guys. Hey, everybody, hold on, please. Well, I'm in line. What would you like me to do? All right. Bye, sweetie. Bye. All right. That was my wife on the phone, guys. Sorry about that. But hey, I am back. So yeah, she's at work, and she was asking had I called in the order. So yes, I had called in the order. But hey, I wish she had got food from here. I should have went up to Clock and got her something from Clock. This is an old menu. They got a new menu board, but all that food there they have, and they have added a few more items. They asking people to pretty much check out their new items. So hey, man, like I said, great place to eat. But once again, man, back to the NWA, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, which became the NWA. They bought up all the NWA territories, and they eventually became WCW. But let's go back to, like I said, the 70s, man. I am in the midst of the mid-70s. This is where I saw the best tag team till this day. And guys, there have been tag teams that came up, and I thought that was better than this tag team at one point in time. But then I look at all the accomplishments and everything. There's nobody been better than Gene and Ole Anderson. That's the first time I seen Gene and Ole Anderson back in like 1975. I first saw them, and then 1977 is when I really started following them big time. But 1975, 1976, when I first saw the Anderson brothers over in the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area and Georgia Championship Wrestling, that's around the time I started watching them up there too. But Gene and Ole Anderson, and you talk about a great tag team. These guys, wow, they will work on your arm. I mean, everybody was talking about to get one part of the body, but it was mainly your arm. They would get your arm, and they would put your arm in such distress that you couldn't do anything to battle back against these guys. When you have an arm that's just pretty much just basically useless, they would go for one arm. When it's basically useless, you can't do anything, and that's the way Gene and Ole Anderson used to work. They would work on your arm till you couldn't do anything, and man, they just dominated. They devastated tag teams and always left out of that ring with somebody being seriously hurt off that tag team, maybe one person, because they were so good. They had such good ring management and such good ring generalship of the ring that they controlled everything in the ring. They stopped you from tagging stopping the weak tag team partner from tagging the strong tag team partner. They would keep the weak link in the ring all the time. And man, they just decimated their opponents. It took a while before anybody who could come up and pretty much take these guys out. And, I did see, hey, the guy who's their cousin, man, Nature Boy Ric Flair teamed up with Johnny Valentine's son, Greg the Hammer Valentine, who was a very tough guy and maybe tough even in some in some aspects, even tougher than his father. This guy came in and teamed up with the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And you talking about, man, that may be, if it wasn't for the short time that these guys teamed up together, they teamed up on 2 different occasions and became NWA World Heavyweight Champions. They took that from the World Heavyweight Champions, who are the Anderson brothers. I would say these guys are the best, but because of these guys, both of them had pretty much singles, had great singles career, and that's what they was aiming for. They didn't stay tag team long, and plus Jim Crockett Promotions made these guys. They took the belts off of them. They made these guys stop being a tag team because they were so brutal. And I'm talking about Ric Flair and Greg the Hammer Valentine. They was the best tag. That's probably the best tag team outside of the Anderson brothers that I ever seen put together. But they didn't stay together long. But the Anderson brothers still to this day, man, and they was in the NWA Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Heavyweight Championship Wrestling area, and that was their best. That was their best. They was great in Georgia too. But these guys was, man, they just destroyed people. That's the greatest tag team that I ever seen, and they came out of the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area, just like the greatest wrestler that I've ever seen, in my opinion. Nature Boy Ric Flair came out of the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area. The greatest feud that I ever seen came out of the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area. That's Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. That was just, in the 70s, those guys put it down. And speaking of Ricky Steamboat, I remember when he came in like 77, this guy came in as a rookie and challenged another great rookie. That's Ric Flair. I mean, Ric Flair had been in the business a few years, but, he's still kind of like considered that, but just a very young cat into the business. And Ricky Steamboat had been in a couple of years too. I mean, he had been wrestling in Florida. But man, you talking about 2 guys that just really went at it. These guys lit up the Carolinas, which was pretty much left, that void was left of a great feud since Johnny Valentine did get hurt in that plane crash and pretty much ended his career. He couldn't wrestle no more. So we did not have that great, outstanding feud, the greatest feud that we ever seen in the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling in the Carolinas. The greatest feud that had ever been waged was between Chief Wahoo McDaniel and Johnny Valentine. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Johnny Weaver and all those guys, those great tag teams, because it was a tag team division, in the early 70s, 60s and 50s and 40s, it was a tag team. It was a tag team territory. Not taking anything away from those, because there was some great, there was some great feuds and everything, but that was before my time. But as far as in singles history, because the singles hadn't been going on for like 3-4 years or whatever. But as far as singles go, they hadn't had anybody that went as hard at each other than Greg the Hammer Valentine and Chief Wahoo McDaniel to Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat. Those guys hooked up. And you talking about great feud, fantastic wrestling action, was those 2 young guys. They just went at each other. But, you also can throw in a Super Destroyer, the Super Destroyer with his feud with Tim Woods. The Super Destroyers a feud with Paul Jones. Number 1 Paul Jones, another guy, man. I'm talking about number 1 Paul Jones. I call him number 1. I will call him number 1 because back in the 70s, at one time between maybe 77 to 79, in my opinion, was the best wrestler in the world, guys. This guy was incredible. Even better than Flair Steamboat, Chief Wahoo McDaniel. Paul Jones was number 1 in my book. This guy was, PJ was just He was incredible. Not just, I know a lot of people who's around today, you know, even the younger, you know, I'm a Gen X guy, Generation X. A lot of these people will remember Paul Jones as just a manager. A lot of you guys will remember, I know my partner, Christopher Burton, he remembers him as a manager. He never got to see him as a wrestler. But Paul Jones, man, Paul Jones was just an incredible wrestler. This guy can go. A lot of people down from, you know, who was watching Florida Championship Wrestling, FCW, Georgia Championship Wrestling, and here in the Carolinas and Virginia would remember this guy as a wrestler. He devastated people. He was good. He was good. Another Ricky Steamboat before Ricky Steamboat. Paul Jones was that guy. Mr. Wrestling 2. He was like Mr. Wrestling 2 over in Georgia, which I will get to him too. He was a lot like Mr. Wrestling 2, and even a better version of that. He was just good, man. He was very good. All right, let me speak with Armour Clark again. Here's a history fact for Wahoo McDaniel fans. He played on the Texas team in the Oil Bowl here in Wichita Falls many years ago, West Texas High School. Can't remember the name of the school. Oh, yeah, Armour. Yeah, that's exactly where he's from. Exactly where he's from. Guys, let me see if I can send a couple things out, couple notices out to people that I am on. I am here live, guys, but I appreciate everybody that's in here right now checking us out. And like I said, if you already here, go ahead and hit that like, share, that subscribe button, guys. You know, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and share wherever you at and let everybody know that the Straight Up Wrestling Show is on here doing this thing, most definitely. But let me go ahead and see if I can share this thing out a little bit. It's going to take me a minute here. Definitely going to take me a minute. All right. All right. Let's see. Yeah, just doing a little bit of doggone sharing, guys. A little bit, but like I said, hey, where was I at? I think I was at number 1, Paul Jones, guys. Like a great wrestler, and man, I really did enjoy watching him. I remember this guy pretty much basically selling out the Greenville Memorial Auditorium. The place slam packed, so packed out when Paul Jones used to wrestle, guys, that you couldn't even walk in the walkways because there would be people sitting out in the walkways because we ran out of seats in that auditorium. Anytime that Paul Jones used to wrestle, you would have to sit in the seats out there. I mean, you sit in the, pretty much sitting in the doggone walkway, guys, because there was no seats. There was no place to sit. They would sell that thing completely out. Our big arena in Greenville, South Carolina was sell completely out back then, guys. Man, it was just incredible. Paul Jones, he was something else. Paul Jones was something else. Man, if his knees wouldn't have went bad, I'm pretty sure he would have continued on through the 80s as that incredible wrestler. But outstanding wrestler. Man, Johnny Weaver, guys. Johnny Weaver. I remember Johnny Weaver, had the fastest sleeper hole in the business. He would put you in the sleeper hole. Nobody, there's other people who used to apply the sleeper hole, but nobody, man, Cowboy Bob Ellis. I remember him using the sleeper hole. He was very good at it. And there was other people that was good at it, but nobody was as fast and quick and sufficient as pretty much Johnny Weaver. Now, Jim Brunzell, who did come into the Mid-Atlantic area too in the 70s, was using that, and he was very good at it. But like I said, nobody was as good as Johnny Weaver. And talking about a guy who wrestled in the 50s and 60s and 70s, man, in the Mid-Atlantic wrestling area, this guy was just, man, he was something else. He was something special to see. If you didn't see Johnny Weaver, you did not see. You wouldn't, if it wasn't for Johnny Weaver, there wouldn't have been a Paul Jones. There wouldn't have been a Ricky Steamboat. Wouldn't have been a Tito Santana. A lot of those guys took after what Johnny Weaver brought to the table. But Johnny Weaver was, he was something, man. He was something in that ring. Now, I heard some things about his personal life that I really didn't care for there. But, as far as what he did in the ring, man, it was legendary. What he did in the ring. Johnny Weaver and what he did here in the Carolinas, well respected. A lot of people respected him. He was kind of like the Fritz Von Erich of Texas. Johnny Weaver was here in the Carolinas. But very, very good wrestler, great wrestler, and probably the biggest name outside of Nature Boy Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat here in the Carolinas for a long time, man. It was Johnny Weaver. Johnny Weaver was just a great wrestler, great character, man. Let me go and talk about some of these strong men. Ken Patera, guys. Ken Patera, who won in 1972. In 1972, he won a gold medal for the United States in weightlifting. Was at that time considered the strongest man in the world, man. The first guy who deadlifted 500 pounds. He was just something else. And he came in and showed a power game. He was a fan favorite, and a lot of fans loved him. Then he became a heel, and he ended up with another guy who started out in the 70s here in the Carolinas and Virginia. He's from Virginia. That's Mr. USA, Tony Atlas. He wasn't Mr. USA then. He was just working out, trying to get bigger and everything, and got big and strong in the 70s. And him and Ken Patera, they put on another great feud. You're talking about another great feud here in the Carolinas. It was between Ken Patera and Tony Atlas, guys. I would never forget that. Never forget that. All right, Armor Clark says, I saw a clip on YouTube of Jimmy Snuka team with Terry Gordy back in the 70s, won the tag belts, went up against Kevin Von Erich and Michael Hayes. That must have been in Texas or somewhere like that. That had to be in Texas. Now, speaking of Jimmy Snuka, another one who came to the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area and won the World Tag Team Championships, the NWA World Tag Team Championships, with another great wrestler, man, that you guys will know this name, Paul Orndorff. I was in 5th grade, 1978, 1979. Those two guys became the NWA World Heavyweight Champions, Paul Orndorff and Jimmy Snuka. And, man, that was an outstanding team, and Jimmy Snuka did most of the work. Jimmy Snuka was the most outstanding in that team, high-flying guy, coming off that top rope, but and just built, just muscled up, incredible physique, one of the best physiques, probably one of the top 3 physiques in the world at that time as far as wrestlers go. But Jimmy Snuka and Paul Orndorff, he wasn't no slouch either. Mr. Wonderful, his physique got even better in the 80s, mid-80s. In the WWE, but he was not cut like Jimmy Snuka back in 79. Jimmy Snuka was he was just something else. But yeah, great tag team, man. One of the great tag teams of the 70s that came out of the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area, the NWA World Heavyweight Champions, man, Mr. Paul Orndorff and Jimmy Snuka, guys. They was a great tag team. So, guys, let me go ahead and move on from those two guys, man. Wow. And like I say, it's just so many people, man. So many people. And I'm going to try to stay in the 70s here. Hey, let's see. Who else came up in the 70s back then? Oh, the man that came from Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon showed up in the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area. That was Roddy Piper, guys. Roddy Piper, man. Wow. This dude here, Roddy Piper, man. Great wrestler. Came in and just, used to use that Dr. Pepper the Dr. Pepper commercial like thing. He used to put a spin on that. They used to use that a lot when, back then when Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling would be going on a commercial or something like that. They would do a Roddy Piper skit, and Roddy Piper would talk about, hey, I'm Roddy Piper. Wouldn't you like to be a Piper too? Just like, hey, Dr. Pepper, wouldn't you like to be a Pepper too? Or Roddy Piper would use that, guys. But Roddy Piper would switch between Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling and Georgia Championship Wrestling, which Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling a lot of times would TV tape. They would TV tape here in Raleigh, up in Raleigh, North Carolina. This was their main places they would tape. They would tape in Raleigh, North Carolina, Williamson, North Carolina, and here in Greenville, South Carolina, and Spartanburg, South Carolina. But here in my hometown of Greenville, South Carolina, they did a lot of the TV taping. And right 2 hours down the road, they would go down to Georgia. So Roddy Piper would switch between here in the Georgia Championship Wrestling area. He would go down there 2 hours down the road and pull off his magic there too. So I got to see him in both territories. But Roddy Piper came in, man, and was a splash, a young guy. Just came in and did his thing, man, and he did a lot of great things. Legendary feuds, guys. Him and Greg the Hammer Valentine in the first Starrcade, man. That match, which a lot of people, everybody still talks about today, the dog collar match. Boom, came from that. I mean, just incredible things that happened in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. And big up to the Crockett's, guys. The best. And then, like I say, I'm not trying to put down Bill Watts. I'm not trying to put down I'm not Fritz Von Erich. I'm not trying to put down Paul Jones. I'm not trying to put down Dunn Owen. I'm not trying to put down Vince McMahon Jr. or Vince McMahon Sr. or any of these other guys, man. Bill Dundee, Jerry Lawler, or any, Jerry Jarrett, any of these other bookers, Ernie Big Cat Ladd, who's another great booker. I'm talking about bookers now, but no, as far as promoters, any other promoters, let me take out those other names as far as Dusty Rhodes, Ernie Ladd, and those guys like that. But I'm talking about promoters. I meant to just go with the promoters. Not trying to put down any other promoters, but nobody could promote wrestling like Jim Crockett. Jim Crockett he was incredible. I'm not going to say he promoted bigger shows than Vince McMahon Jr. Nobody has done that. Nobody has did that. But he did promote, like I said, Jim Crockett promoted some very huge shows in the market that he was in. This market is not as big as the market that Vince McMahon. Nobody had a bigger market than Vince McMahon. I mean, you have to go out to California to pretty much say somebody had just as big of a market. But, Hollywood wrestling wrestling did very well out there, but never took off the way it did in New York. If somebody wanted to really get into that, they definitely could have probably did even bigger things out in California, especially out in LA, Hollywood or whatever, did something even bigger for wrestling if they wanted to take on Vince McMahon, if they was coming from that platform. I know Jim Crockett, Dusty Rhodes with Crockett Promotions, took it out to Dallas and wanted to, because it was a bigger epicenter than Charlotte, North Carolina, and tried to take on Vince McMahon. But pretty much when he did that, he pretty much overstepped some things, got into the, jumped out of the frying pan into up into the oven, up into the fire pit, and pretty much started spending too much money, started doing some things he shouldn't have did. He should have waited a little longer, and that probably would have worked, but it did not work. And we ended up having my man Jim Crockett sell off his great territory to Ted Turner, guys. But hey, man, like I said, that was back in the 70s. There was a lot of great people. I remember Bobby Duncombe, big bad Bobby Duncombe, Cowboy Bobby Duncombe. Great man, great promos. His wrestling was just outstanding over in the 70s. I remember when they brought in Mighty Igor, Ernie the Big Cat Ernie Ladd just came in, and to this day, outside of, I got the only person I can really put with him as far as intimidating in wrestling and stayed an intimidating figure is Brock Lesnar. He was Brock Lesnar before Brock Lesnar. And I could even put Goldberg to a certain point in that category. But Ernie the Cat Ladd just devastated people and was very intimidating. But like I said, look, that was the first time I ever seen Big Cat Ernie Ladd, Bobo Brazil come through Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling in the 70s. And guys, I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the 70s right here, right now. But so many different people that did so many incredible things in that territory. I will never forget to this day. But yeah, so right now, like I said, I'm here in the 70s. Let me check out a few things I got here. Yes, no doubt about that. Christine Saucy Girl is checking that out, that fried chicken. But yeah, right. Once again, guys, let me go ahead and talk about the restaurant. Like I said, the restaurant behind you, man. Hey, I do love going to get a good fried chicken meal here. But man, as far as the gold standard for these type of restaurants is the chili cheeseburger. If they got the great chili cheeseburger, they have meat. They are the best. Their hot dogs are the best. I mean, I know a lot of people around the country they call them chili dogs, but here in the South, we say hot dog all the way, and that's mustard, chili, and onions. So that's a hot dog all the way. I know people they will come here from down south. Come here from up north. They will come here from up north. What am I talking about? Come here from up north, and they would go into a restaurant like that, like these, and they would say, I would like a chili dog. And I know I used to work with some of them, and be like, that man's stupid. He didn't give me no hot dog. He didn't give him no wiener or whatever. Just gave him a bun and chili. They did not, they didn't know what they were talking about because here in these type of restaurants, a hot dog is mustard, chili, and onions. That's the way we grew up or whatever. And if you want it all the way, you just go and say, if you don't want the onions on it, you just say, I want a hot dog with no onions. So that's the way it goes here. But you don't have to say chili dog when you come here. Everybody knows if you say hot dog all the way, everybody knows how it is. But yeah, like I said, this place, outstanding, man. Great place to eat. You want to go and you want to get some good food. Anytime if you in the upstate of South Carolina, man, look for these places. Look for these places. And I know a lot of people around the country have heard of the Beacon. You know, that's world famous. But the Beacon used to make their food a lot like these places. They still do, but they're not as good as this place. Like I said, best burgers in the upstate of South Carolina. If you see that behind me. And like everybody said, man, it says fried chicken up there. And maybe my man V will take that down and put something else up there. I don't know. Maybe he'll keep fried chicken on there. I have no clue, but that, like, you know, they do fried chicken, but they are known for their other dishes a lot more than they are for their fried chicken, guys. 100%. All right, man. But yeah, I appreciate everybody coming in and checking this thing out. But guys, we will be on tonight. We will be on tonight for Monday Night Raw, guys. Myself and Christopher Burton, the People's Podcaster, being here doing our thing. And this weekend, guys, we will be in Greenwood, South Carolina, the Edgewood Community Center. We have a show coming up, guys, at the Greenwood Community Center. TV taping, guys. So we will be having that show. It's called Major Impact. Guys, if you're in the upstate, definitely come on out there and check it out. Doors open at 1 p.m., and I think we're going to start filming at 2 p.m. As far as these shows, guys. So come on out and check that out. TV taping right then and there. But check me out tonight with my partner, the People's Podcaster, Christopher Burton. This is part 1, guys. I'm going to come back with part 2 tomorrow, guys, because all I did was the 70s, and I'm going to go ahead and try to finish up the 70s. It's going to be a continuation. I'm going to finish up the 70s. I'm going to go through the 80s, the 90s, and the early, you know, all the way up until they shut down my favorite wrestling territories. But yeah, I talked about the 70s. All I talked about was Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area. I'm going to talk about Georgia Championship Wrestling too, guys. Stay straight up. Talk to you guys later. Peace.